Nioh is an intense action RPG that subverts genre expectations with a fast-paced and intricate combat system. What's more, there's loot galore, a surprising bit of character customization, and some scexy bosses. That's scary sexy. It's the only word for some of them. If that's tickled your gaming taste buds, there's plenty more where that came from. Here are 6 reasons you should be excited for Nioh on PC. We all know that a game isn't considered to have ticked all the boxes unless you can swap out the genitals no one will ever see on your character. Nioh's protagonist is a blonde samurai by the name of William, and if that still leaves you scratching your head as to why you can't customise everything from his hair colour to his Ken doll smooth nether regions, have we got good news for you. As the game opens up, you'll unlock the blacksmith who happens to be a dab hand at a shave and a haircut. Also gluing hair to faces, or making it grow really fast. Who knows what sorcery hairdressers possess. Spending patronage points to open up the barber menu lets you change William's hairstyle and facial hair, while the refashion option lets you change the cosmetic appearance of his armour. If you're a fashion-conscious RPG player, you'll already be familiar with the struggle of style over substance. So if you really like the look of those low-level pantaloons, you can make any piece of high-level gilded armour look like a filthy old rag. Or vice versa. But the best part is disguises. After completing the Spider Nest Castle mission, the hidden tea house will unlock and you can access the disguises. Defeat revenants, the ghosts of human players, and earn glory to spend on these skins. And amongst them you'll find a few choice ladies. It's not quite full customization, but considering you play as a specific character with their own backstory, it's better than a poke in the eye. The world of a yokai-infested feudal Japan is a perilous one to navigate, especially when you're all alone. But you don't have to live a life of a lone wolf and cub. Nioh supports all kinds of fun multiplayer modes, although real PvP is yet to make an appearance. For now, fighting Revenant will have to do the job. And you'll have to do it often if you want to make the most of all of the other co-op modes. Challenging the AI-controlled ghosts who represent both real human players who got a little too confident and NPC warriors is the best way to farm the Choco Cups, the item you need to summon other players to your world. Once you've built up a fat stash, you can summon strangers or, if you prefer, set a code word and get a friend involved to lend a hand during the campaign. There are even co-op specific missions accessible via the Torii Gate that let you revive one another, and judgment is passed on whether the endeavour was a failure or not at the end, taking into account factors like how often you bit the dust. The icing on the cake? Loot is specific to each player's game, so you don't have to worry about scurrying around stealing every loot drop out from under the nose of your chum before they notice. Speaking of loot, the system in Nioh will shower you with all manner of weapons and armour. With 5 melee weapon categories and 3 ranged, you can experiment and build an affinity with your favoured picks, eventually unlocking buffs and special effects when you max out your familiarity with them. You can wield 2 melee and 2 ranged weapons, and you'll find a rifle and hand cannon amongst the latter, as well as a more traditional longbow. And anything that adds blowing people's heads off to a game is okay by me. Weapons aren't just handy for stabbing, slicing and maiming opponents and your crate either. You can sell or break them down as you'd expect, but there's a third option that can really help you out when you need to level up. Offering weapons you've strengthened through the familiarity system at shrines will net you Amrita, which is effectively the currency you need to level up. There may be many katanas like the one you're lugging about, but this one is yours. Your katana is your best friend, and once you've had a quick snuggle Full Metal Jacket style, you can surrender it for even more Amrita than its bog standard counterpart. The bond you've forged with it makes it more valuable than one you've just picked up from a fresh drop, which is all rather poetic and probably speaks to the value of self-sacrifice on some level, but on a very real gameplay level, it teaches you that everything is disposable and you should flip between weapons, armour and skill trees to keep that sweet Amrita flowing. Imagine getting yourself a fun little pet and taking it along on your adventures, but it only ever popped out when you really needed it. Guardian spirits are that. Kind of. There are a couple dozen animals with their own elements, and each of them has passive benefits for William to make the most of. Unlike pets though, you should swap them often, trading them in for another critter who's better suited for your particular scenario. As hard as it may be, try not to get too attached to them. Buffs aside, the Guardian Spirits have a nifty offensive ability called Living Weapon that charges up when you receive Amrita. When activated, you're immune to attacks, deal extra damage, and can use your Guardian Spirit special attack. And as it's always fun to watch your pet maul someone to death, I did this often. You can even assign 2 Guardian Spirits later on in the game to make the most of the power of friendship. Nioh's setting is somewhat unique, and while the story may seem like a fanciful take on the foreign saviour trope, its roots are grounded in real life. There really was an Englishman by the name of William who sailed to Japan and became a samurai. His journey was a hellish one, and hundreds of sailors died along the way. He was eventually summoned before Tokugawa Ieyasu and dropped the Spanish and Portuguese, who already had a foothold in Japan, into hot water by filling in the future shogun on the goings-on in Europe and presenting avenues for trade that didn't come attached with stipulations of Catholic missionaries sweeping through the nation. As well as being made a samurai, he attained the highest rank in the shogun's court and lived out the rest of his days in Japan. William and Tokugawa Ieyasu aren't the only characters based on historical figures. Creepy bad guy Edward Kelly was into the occult and shared company with the infamous John Dee, although he never made it to Japan and died before the real-life William's voyage had even begun. For the most part, the other figures in the game, like Hattori Hanzo and Oda Nobunaga, were all alive and feuding alongside Ieyasu, and the game even includes one of the more significant battles in the country's history, the Battle of Sekigahara. You can read more about the characters and events in the game's codex, so if that's piqued your interest, you can find out more there. If you've picked up Nioh and have heard that the combat plays out in a similar way to other Japanese RPGs, think again. Watching the more skilled players in action, it has more in common with the fast-paced combos of Ninja Gaiden, and it's all down to the key pulse. Similar to the active reload mechanic from Gears of War, hitting the designated button at the right time during a beatdown will recharge your key meter, and if you get it in a sweet spot, your key meter will replenish in full. It essentially lets you refill your stamina bar as you fight, which is a world away from what we've become used to in the you just died again tough beans buddy genre. As well as weapon skill trees, a stance system makes the skirmishes even more intricate, allowing for a nuance and fluidity outside of just rolling around on the floor and occasionally poking demonic monsters. High, mid and low stances offer their own benefits in relation to offense and defense, and even deliberately sheathing your weapon before a strike has its own merit. Learn to mix it up and don't become reliant on just one. And that's before we've even touched on magic or ninja skill trees. But we'll leave those for you to discover on your own. Variety is everything in Nioh, and you should experiment until you find your groove. Nioh is never going to avoid comparisons to games like Dark Souls and Bloodborne, but it's an entirely different beast altogether, and once you drop any preconceived notions of what to expect when William washes up on the shores of Japan, you're in for a treat. Let us know if you'll be picking up Nioh on PC, like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe for more weekly content. Thanks for watching.